Hi to all. The topic of today's talk is IDS, Intrusion Detection System. In the previous video, we saw about the firewall, how firewall help us to prevent network from the intruders. So how we can strengthen the firewall? That is a definite question because every day new websites are coming, new attackers are coming, and it is too difficult to trace all the records. And if our firewall database is not up to date, definitely our device will be compromised. So the very challenging thing is that how we can secure our device or how we can strengthen our device from the internet. So definitely the answer is that we strengthen the firewall. So how we can strengthen the firewall? We should update the database of firewall. The firewall should know which website is malicious and which website is benign one. The way to strengthen the firewall is the IDS, Intrusion Detection System. So in this system, we'll look for the devices, those are vulnerable. We can verify them and make the database for the firewall. So the firewall will prevent more and accurate and correct websites. That means the firewall will see the database. If the website is present vulnerable in our database, so firewall will stop that particular website. So the importance of IDS is very much high. So we'll look for the IDS and the various categories of IDS. So basically in a firewall, we've seen that the firewall is a kind of protection that will save the perimeter of your system device, your work area or the computer systems. That means it is a basically kind of a choking path or the choking packet where all outside connection will passes through that particular gate, that choking gate, and go to the inside the organization or inside the LAN or the private network. So that is a main entry point that firewall will protect. But firewall have some limitations. Limitations like firewall can't see the messages those are coming with the emails or some with some malicious software or malicious packets. They can only protect you from the IPs. They can filter the packet. They can see the packets stressing the network and the transport of the ports they can manage, but they can't see the messages. So they are not able to help give the foolproof security. For the foolproof security, we need additional things that we can use with the firewall. Of course, firewall is most important one because they will block the IPs. They will secure your network from the malicious attacks. If some malicious IP is coming, you can block with them. So, but we need a system that will help to detect some malicious things and help firewall strengthen the firewall to add more rules on it. So for that particular purpose, we have an intrusion detection system. OK, so intrusion detection system is basically a task or a job that will find out the intruders. So who are the intruders? Intruders may be anyone. It can be a hacker. Those want to be hack your devices. OK, it can be a hacktivist. Hacktivist, or you can say the activist. Activists are basically they are usually working as insiders or the member of the larger group of outside attackers who are motivated by social or political causes. Okay, they are also doing things for the someone's profit. They are very well known things. They are doing things purposefully, and they basically try to demolish the image of your organization, or they will try to expose something from your organization or from your system. They may be from the foreign governments, like the Ids-I is doing something or the RAW is doing something. They're trying to capture some secrets from your device and your machine. So they may be intruders, terrorists, criminal groups, any insiders, those who are taking the bribes from the others and they help the people to take some information, pull some information for the other parties. Some state-sponsored organizations also be there. Some cyber criminals are there. Cyber criminals basically those who are involving in some criminal offense. The basic purpose of them to achieve some financial rewards. So mostly the Russian countries or some other people where the attackers are sitting over there, they trying to put send the illegal message. Mostly the ransomware is a very common things that they perform. They try to steal information. So they are the intruders. Intruders, that means a person uh, which can who can attack your device or without of disturbing anything, they can steal some information from your device, or they can put some malware, so they can generate a trapdoor or steal some secrets from you, and then later on they will blackmail you, and they can degrade your image, the personality in the public. So there are various things that comes for the intruders. So definitely nobody wants the intruders. We want a system which will protect us from the intruders. So definitely firewall is the one. So we need to strengthen the firewall. How we can strengthen the firewall? For that particular thing, we have to be update the rules in the firewall, which one is allowed and which one is not allowed. So to strengthen the things, we need a system. That system is known as an intrusion detection system. The question is that what intruders can do with us. The simple thing is that why we need IDS. So the intruder can perform various things. That means they can compromise our system, our email server. They are defacing the web server, gaussing and cracking the passwords, copying the database containing credit cards numbers, some financial information they can steal. They can view sensitive data, including payrolls and the medical information without any authorization. That means they can harm in any kind of way. So basically, first of all, we have to understand what the behavior of intruders and how we can prevent them. So basically, the techniques and behavior patterns of intruders are constantly shifting to exploit newly discovered weakness and to evade detection and countermeasures. They definitely change or shift their methodology time to time. And so basically it's we discussed in the beginning, it's a black hat and black and white hat fight basically. So they are trying to figure out the new methodology to perform, to steal the data, to defacing your systems. They want to access your device. They want privilege in your machine so they can see some meaningful data, some sensitive data, some valuable data. Okay, they can maintain the access continuously, they can try to install one backdoor so they can continuously come into your system and see and steal the things. They are trying to cover the tracks with all the trapdoors from where they enter the device. They try to exploit the vulnerability of the device so they can attack on that particular thing. So these are things performed by the intruders. So how we can detect the intruders? That is a major question. How we can detect the intruders? Yeah, the one more category is state-sponsored organization. Sometimes the government also do the things that they are listening for somebody's things. Okay. So as I discussed the example of intrusion, various ways. So we are talking about the behavior of intruders. So the intruders, what they want to do, they are trying to target acquisition and information gathering, initial access, privilege acceleration, information gathering of system exploit, maintain the access, as I told you, because they want to come to your machine continuously, and they want to be discuss various things. Privilege acceleration, that means action taken on system, typically via local access vulnerability. Okay, so they will increase the privilege available to the attackers to enable their desired goal on the target system. Initial access, what is the meaning of initial access? The initial access is that the initial access to the target system. So basically, typically by exploiting a remote network vulnerability and by guessing the weak authentication credential used in a remote service. For example, in some devices, people are using the password like root, and in the reverse manner, they can write the password. In a Kali Linux also, the password is a Kali. Some predefined ID password is there. People are not changing them. So attackers can use that thing that is called the initial access. So these are the things to perform the intruders. Basically, they're coming to your device and trying to steal all kind of information, whatever they can do, and see the vulnerability. They try to expose your devices, so they can do whatever they want in a later on or the same time also. How they are doing the things, the next thing is coming. How they can do that, how they can uh, perform the things. For example, if I'm talking about a target acquisition and information gathering. So for the target acquisition and information gathering, how they can do the things. They can explore the corporate website for information on corporate structure, personal key system, as well as denial of specific web server and OS also. They are trying to do that thing. They gather the information on target network using the DNS lookup. DNS lookup is a common command or system call that will give the information about the DNS. There are various tools available for DNS lookup, just like the dig, host, and some others. They map the network for accessible service using the tool like Nmap. We already did one experiment with Nmap. They can send query email to the customer service, contact, review response of information on mail client server and OS. What the OS people are using. There are various tools which will give that type of information, and they identify the potentially vulnerable services, the vulnerable ports, some open ports they will identify. They will perform the SQL injection and some things to figure out the information. So this is the kind of thing that the target acquisition and information gathering perform. We talk about the initial access. So how initial access is happening? The initial access, they try to exploit some remote vulnerability basically. So they perform the brute force. Brute force means the guesswork. They try some predefine or some common ID and passwords to your machine. They try to figure out the passwords. They exploit the vulnerability in web content management system. They use some various plugins. They send a spear phishing email with the link of web server, exploit the key. That things the people are using for the initial access. We talk about the privilege escalation. So in a privilege escalation means we are typically perform some action through the local system vulnerability. So for that particular thing, the attacker tried to scan the system for application which with local exploit. They will explain, they will try to scan your machine and perform some exploitation things. If some device or some system call return as a vulnerability, they will exploit it. They will exploit any vulnerability application to gain elevated privilege. They try to install sniffer to capture administrator password. Once you type something, the keylogger kind of thing is there. If you are doing something, the keylogger will collect the information. They use captured administrator password to access privileged information. So there are various things though that the privilege escalation can happen. Another thing is the information gathering or system exploit. So information gathering means they scan the files for desired information. Once they in your machine, the intruders try to scan all the folders and files, whatever is required for them. They transfer large number of documents to external repository. That means without your information, your data is going somewhere else. The intruders use the guessed or captured password to access other server or network. These are things they perform for the information gathering or system exploit. Maintaining access. Maintaining access, that means the intruder wants to access your device continuously. So they install remote administrator tool or the rootkit with backdoor for later access. We know about the rootkit. In our module 2, the rootkit was there. So we know about the rootkit. It will allow the intruders or the attackers to come in the machine and give the root privilege. If they are successfully installed rootkit over there, they can do whatever they want because they will get the root access. The intruder can use the administrator password to later access network because they have a root information. They can do the thing. Even they can modify or disable your antivirus system or IDS program which is running in your machine, so your device is not able to prevent your things services. Okay, covering tracks. What's the meaning of covering tracks? Covering tracks, that means whatever tracks they are imposed in your device, nobody can see that tracks. So they use rootkit to hide the file installed on your machine, installed on your system. Rootkit allows them to they behave like a root or the main user of the device. They can edit the log file to remove the entries. Those are generating duration, the installation. They can manipulate the system histories also. So these things can done by the intruders. So I think it's sufficient to understand the intruders are so much dangerous. So we need a system which prevent the intruders from our machine. Understood? So there are two things come into the system whenever we talk about the intrusion detection system. One is a security intrusion. That means a security event or the combination of multiple security event that constitute a security incident in which an intruder gains or attempt to gain access to the system without having authorization to do so. We need a system so we can identify the behavior of the intruders. So that means we can allow intruders in a secure way, with a security, and we'll observe what they are doing. Once we have the sufficient information, we can build our intrusion detection system. The basic intrusion detection system is a security service that monitor and analyze system events for the purpose of finding and providing real-time or near real-time warning of attempts to access system resources in an unauthorized manner. If you are talking about that categories or types of intrusion detection system, so mainly we can divide the intrusion detection system in two different categories. One is a network intrusion detection and another one is a host intrusion detection system. In short, we can say that the host intrusion detection system, that is HIDS, is a basically system level defense. It is installed on the system, especially on a server basically. So they will prevent all the traffic passes through the server, and you can save the individual system or server. That's why its name is host intrusion. So it will save a particular device, a particular node, a particular system. And in the network intrusion detection system NIDS, it is apply for whole network, kind of a LAN. So whatever coming into the LAN or the private network, it is passes through the NIDS. So it will basically see the traffic. So the hits basically secure the processes and system calls, something executing into the device, and NIDS is used to secure the network. Okay. So two things are there, and to identify the intruders, we have two different methods. So what are the methods? First method is signature based detection. That means the intruders or the malwares or the attackers follow some kind of pattern. So we are trying to figure out that pattern or the signature, digital signature of the attacker, and say, okay, this type of thing is performed by the malicious activity. For example, they come into your device, apply the brute force and see the password. It means the login attempts are too much. That is a kind of signature. Okay, this is the brute force attack. We'll identify some things hitting continuously and they are not succeeded. So we know that something is happening. Suddenly the traffic is increased in a particular network, a particular time. That means we understood, okay, this is a kind of DOS attack. So the attack pattern have some kind of signature. So very first task is that we'll identify that signature or pattern and we can say it's an intrusion. Then we can prevent that thing. Second one is anomaly based detection. Anomaly based, that means you know the some sequence is going to be happen. For example, if you want to write something into the file, you can give the system calls like open a file, find a file, go to that particular file and write something over there. But in between, if you are inserting something, the deleting a file command, that is anomaly. That is not a expected thing, because if you are writing something, you can't delete anything. If you're deleting something, that means the anomaly. So we'll try to figure out the anomaly happening into the network traffic or the system call, and we say, okay, this is the attack. So these are the two things. Those are most popular for identification, for knowing whether attack is happening or not. So these things make a complete IDS. So in the IDS, basically, what happened? We'll prevent the individual systems also, that is hits. We prevent the whole network, that is the nits. So an IDS monitors your network if possible from the dangerous activity, including malicious acts and the violation of security protocol. When such problem is detected, an IDS alert the administrator, but doesn't necessarily take any other action. They can basically, the role of IDS is to strengthen the firewall. That means some intelligent IDS are making the rules. Okay, this IP is dangerous. Simply block the IP and send the administrator. Okay, this type of IPs we are going to be blocked. And then after all, once the detection is happening, the experts or the administrator can perform the analysis over there and they can verify whether things is correct or not. Okay, so if we start with the IDS, if you want to perform something with the IDS, so as per the standard of RFC, there are three basic components. Those are used in IDS. One is the sensor. So sensors are basically the input sense. That means those who are taking the input, those who are collecting the data, those who are responsible for collecting the data. The input for a sensor may be any part of the system that could be contain the evidence of the intrusion, maybe some system calls. They can use the network packet, log files, and anything. Those things performed by the system, execution, traffic, anything is a sensor. Sensor means the input, how we can take the input. Once we have a sufficient data that we collected from the sensor, we have to be analyzed. So we need analyzers. So basically analyzers receives input from various sensors and they will analyze the data. Maybe if the log file is there or some networks are there. So basically machine learning techniques are coming to the use. The same thing we are doing into the lab also. If you attended last lab and you saw the assignment number 9. So we started one idea system where we have a data and we try to analyze the data. In the last lab, we discussed about the data. In tomorrow's lab, we discuss about some more things on the same pattern, the IDS, and try to build an IDS system as much as possible. We apply various machine learning algorithms, those perform the analysis and they will segregate the benign one and the malicious one. Okay, so that is the role of analyzer. We are trying to build one analyzer in our lab also. So the output of each and every evidence is maybe come in form of binary, whether it is true, it is or false. It is a benign, it's a malicious. If it's a malicious, we can block them. It's benign, we can allow that. And user interface, of course, the how the user will interact with the system. So that is the things. So as we discussed above, we have two different types of IDS. One is a network intrusion detection system, that is NITS. Basically, it's all about the traffic monitoring. It is implemented into the network, and the people are looking for the this NITS is looking for the network continuously. If something is happened maliciously, it will inform the analyzer, it will inform the administrator, and see what action is performed on that over that. There is a network, but it will allow all the packets those are written in a rule. So basically, it works as a rule. If you say all port 80s, all packets from port number 80 is allowed. So it is not going to interrupt any packets which are coming or which are going for port number 80. If you say block port number 80, so it will block the port number 80. That means it will not allow any HTML packet into the device. So that thing is basically happening in the organizations. People are doing that thing. They block the Facebook and some social media websites. The NITS kind of thing is there. Another kind is the host intrusion detection system, that is HIDS. The host intrusion detection system lives on a monitor, a single host. For example, the server basically. If you have a supercomputer, if you have your personal machine, you install the HIDS, host-based machine. Windows also doing the thing. The Windows firewall is a kind of HIDS. So it might alter the administrator. If a video game is accessing private files, it shouldn't be accessing, and that have nothing to do with it operations. So it will see what are the permissions you gave for a particular device. So they are doing only under that particular permission. If they detect any kind of changes making by any system or software, they will compare it and establish a checksum and alert the administrator if there is a problem or something. Okay, so this is all about the basics about the intrusion detection system. The basically intrusion detection system is, we can summarize the things. So we have three different ways to take the input and perform the things. One is a signature based technique. Signature based, that means we follow the pattern. We try to figure out the pattern. Some viruses have pattern, and worms have a pattern. Some malicious things are a pattern. So we try to figure out the patterns. Basically, this thing will work with the Windows machine. If you see the Windows intrusion detection system, they mostly work on the base of the signature. All the antivirus engines definitely work with the signature. They look for the signature and they block. Second one is an anomaly based technique. Anomaly based technique, that means you have a sufficient data and log file and you are trying to figure out what is wrongly happened. What is the thing that is not, you didn't allow to be happen but happened. So you try to figure out the anomalies. For this anomaly detection, we have artificial neural network, fuzzy logic, various machine learning things, associative rule mining, support vector machine, genetic algorithm, several things we perform. Mostly Linux based attacks are come in this category. If we perform the case study of Linux security, so most of the things come this anomaly based technique, because it traces the system calls and try to figure out what things are going on inside that thing. And if you want to be more secure the things, you can combine both the things and it will become the hybrid technique. So these are the major ways how to prevent the intrusion detection.